Welcome everyone. This is Tracy Una Wagner with Versatile Inspirations. And today we're going to be continuing down the road talking about emotions and how we can actually work with them to our benefit. So today we will be talking about connecting with our emotions, and with that, how we can appreciate them and maybe release them. So let me screen share and we'll get started. All right, and like I said, we're talking about how we can go about connecting with our emotions. So what are emotions? They are actually a natural, instinctive state of mind deriving from one's circumstances, mood, or relationships with others. Also, it's an instinctive or intuitive feeling as distinguished from reasoning or knowledge. So it's apart from that. They're not exactly sure what causes it. We know that there are lots of different kinds of emotions, but where do they come from and why do they happen? You know, some people even say that some of the emotional turmoil that we go through is not even actually from this lifetime. It's from our past lifetime. That's why sometimes past life regressions are so important, to really connect with where these or your emotions come from. Sometimes they're not even part of a trauma that you've experienced that you have recollection of. Sometimes if we have an emotional reaction to something, then sometimes it isn't even something that we can wrap our head around. Sometimes we put a block there so that we don't remember because it was so traumatic of an experience. So emotions are very tricky things. They are, because we don't know sometimes when they come up. We're not sure where they came from. They may have just been programmed in from witnessing others go through something, or it could be triggered from a past life that we'd gone through, or something that we're just not even sure where it came from. So that's why they're so tricky, and they're very hard to want to really connect with sometimes, because they are emotional. It's just sometimes not a pretty thing. Sometimes we've got to cry and cry and cry, or sometimes we need to get angry and let that out, or sometimes it's a happy thing. Sometimes we're just so overjoyed. Those emotions aren't so tricky when we're happy, right? It's the ones where we are struggling, where we feel bad, or we feel just lots of different ways. Some of them could be from loss or grief. That feeling of loss or that emotion of grief is hard. And if we sense or see or have to go through that same thing again, it just brings everything else back. And so it's like doubled and tripled and quadrupled. It's just a loss or grief upon loss and grief upon loss and grief. And sometimes it is just very difficult. Blocks, like we were saying before, sometimes if we've gone through something, we may not even remember it until something triggers it or something comes up, whether that's fear or an emotional release such as crying or anger. Sometimes when we put those blocks up, it just creates almost like a dam effect. Everything happens in back of this dam, and so all of a sudden it just comes crashing down if it gets overflowed. And so with that, a lot of times we're just not sure where it came from, how it got there, and how to get over it. And with any of these, if you're feeling overly upset or anxious or just lost, then please reach out to someone that can actually help, someone that can help you through that. Sometimes it is difficult and we do need help. And thank goodness we have help. all around us. Whether that's suicide prevention, whether that is going and talking with our healthcare professional, maybe a friend or a relative, or maybe we need to go to a psychologist or a psychiatrist. They're trained to help us. So please reach out and tap into the resources that are all around you. Criticism. If you get criticized, then that could be a tricky emotion to have to go through too. Not only do we have to forgive someone else, we have to forgive ourselves too for thinking that that criticism may have been in a bad place for us or a bad way towards us. So forgiveness is a big thing when we're dealing with emotions. Disappointment. There again, disappointment can come from other people or it can be placed upon ourselves. And so when we go through that feeling of disappointment, all those other times of disappointment or criticism come back. And so then we feel doubly or multi feelings of emotions. Illness can trigger the same kind of emotions. If you get sick and say then you get sick again after you got well, then that emotion of that illness, we just get a very negative feeling towards it and ourselves. Why can't we be well? Why can't I get better? Why is this happening? So emotions are tricky in that way too, even during illnesses. Limitations. If we have limitations to where we can't fully do or be exactly what we have in our minds, then sometimes that limitation can form into resentment of ourselves and what we're only able to do. That's why that emotion of that limitation really, anything else just kind of triggers it even more. It's difficult to wrap our heads around why we can't do something or be something, but the limitation is there and we need to learn how to move with that limitation and find ways in which we can do and be all that we want. Scarcity. This is a hard one too, because if we've seen scarcity in our past, whether that's our family or our friends or just by living and seeing and witnessing scarcity on a worldwide level, that triggers an emotion. Sometimes it's anger, sometimes it's sadness, sometimes it is just all of the above and more. And so scarcity, when we experience it or we see it or it's just reflected in our view, then we just have a feeling of overwhelming empathy towards other people. But if we're experiencing scarcity, sometimes we get scared and we get angry and we're just at a loss of what to do. First and foremost, I want you to know that in any of these or all of these and more, with our emotions, we need to be gentle with ourselves. When we aren't gentle with ourselves, those things just become magnified. Those emotions go from maybe just a feeling of disappointment to outright anger. So what we need to do is we need to be gentle when we're feeling that disappointment. Allow ourselves to feel into it, and then we can move through it. We can understand why we're disappointed or someone else is disappointed, and we can move through it. Calm, cool, and collected. Just remember that even though it looks like maybe a cloud that is following us around, sometimes it feels like that when we're experiencing these hard emotions, just know that beyond that cloud is a beautiful sun, is a beautiful ray of light. And that water is helping, that water from that emotion is just helping to release it back into that beautiful light. Don't take on too much. When we're trying to work with our emotions, if we want to work through our emotions and connect with our emotions, and we take on way too much, even just the slightest bit of emotion can be too much. The slightest bit of trying to work through an emotion can trigger that multitude of other emotions just coming and piling down upon you. So don't take on too much. Take on one thing at a time if you can, and just see where it is and try and keep it to where you're gentle on yourself through the whole process. And remember that if you do start finding that you're going from one emotion to another emotion to another emotion, take some downtime. Try some self-care routines or self-love routines. Take a saltwater bath. Go have a massage. Go have a pedicure or manicure. Get your hair done. Go and walk in nature. Step in the ocean or a lake. Just be out in nature helps to ground us back into our bodies and then allows for the healing process to continue. It's a wonderful healing thing to go walk in nature. You'll be surprised. Please get help when needed, whether that is with your friends, relatives, coworkers, anyone. But if you're feeling overwhelmed with emotions, please seek guidance from medical professionals. They're there to help, whether that's a 1-800 suicide prevention or that is going and seeing your medical professional. Please do. They're there to help. That is what they're there for, and they can actually help you move through these emotional times. Don't get stuck. Sometimes what happens when we start working with our emotions is we start feeling like instead of flowing down that river and finding out where it might take us with our emotions, we get stuck. We try and exit that flow maybe too soon and we get stuck. And what happens is we wallow and we just keep moving in this mucky, yucky gunk. And what happens is that triggers even more emotions and we get frustrated and upset with ourselves. And that's exactly what we don't want. You don't want to get upset with yourself. You don't want to trigger those other emotions. It's easy to do it, but there again, once you see yourself getting stuck in this mire, walk out in nature, take a break, relax, read a book, journal, do something that takes you away from trying to work with that to actually just doing something. Just by the art of doing anything, dancing, journaling, walking in nature, doing something is going to take your mind in a different direction. And that way you can release it and let it go. Deep breathing is a great way to do that as well. Forgiveness is key. That's key to everything. That is whether we're forgiving ourselves or we're forgiving others. It is key. Being able and allowing yourself to forgive is utmost important because that will help you make space to bring your energy back so that you feel full of beautiful energy rather than that depressing and heavy energy. So forgiveness is key. Along with forgiveness is trying not to judge. Try to be a disinterested third party if you can. Don't judge yourself or others. When we judge ourselves, we're putting way too much pressure on ourselves to be in a different place. When we are where we are, that's where we are. And so being able to relax into who we are is another way to accept ourselves and to forgive ourselves. Also with not judging others, just like you, they are where they are. And no matter what you do in anger or disappointment or resentment is not going to move them along their path any better. So when we don't judge, it makes it easier for us to forgive and to let go. And when we can let go, we can cut cords and we can bring our power back to ourselves. You're going to know more power in yourself, and you're going to be able to radiate that more fully to those who are wanting to accept your love and your acceptance. And by being able to forgive, release, and let go, then we're able to receive our power back. And that's exactly what we need. If we're feeling heavy, that means we're depleted of something. We're not getting our full power. And by letting some of these emotional states go, these emotional experiences, these emotional ties that we have, when we're able to let them go, we bring that power back to ourselves. And we send love and light to that cord so that it can just go back into its native state, which is love and light. Now, through this whole process, it isn't something that's going to happen overnight, although we can have awakenings or transformations or transmutations very quickly. But when we first start out, it's really good to just create a slow process. A slow moving river takes you in the same direction as something that's going extremely fast. But you're able to experience what's going on, and that way you can process it fully to its fullest extent, and that way hopefully nothing else will trigger that multitude of piles brought on by something, just a little thing that may happen that sometimes sets you ablaze. Once we start working with it slowly and able to process it at a slow, even pace, we're able to identify those circumstances that may trigger us into being angry or upset. And then we're able to move through it a lot easier. We don't connect to them as much. We won't put our full emotional weight behind something. We can be objective and we can say, yes, this is not good. Yes, this angers me, but I can do something proactive about it now. First and foremost, take care of yourself. Again, talk with friends and family and coworkers or anyone you feel has your back that you can talk to on that basis. And if not, healthcare professionals. During the time of connecting with your emotions, also make sure to take time for yourself. Self-care, self-love, walking in nature, deep breathing, doing things for yourself to take care of yourself. Even if that means journaling and letting out a big cry. Tears have salt. They are very cleansing, and so it will actually help that cleansing process as well. Contemplation. When you go slowly through connecting with your emotions and your emotional states, when we think about those times when we've gotten upset or we've been triggered by something, we're able to work through those. And by doing so, it helps us in future circumstances. And remember, your heart is fragile. You may not be the one experiencing one of these emotions. It may be from someone else. And you're feeling someone else's heart emotions. As an empath, that happens a lot, especially if we haven't put up a barrier that only allows for what we want to feel. Most of the time we're walking around and we're getting in situations and in different places where that is overrun by emotions. And when we take those on, some things we take on full on, and sometimes we only, sort through the things that may trigger us, and then we those in full force, and now we've got a cord attached to that. So by releasing those cords, we're able to heal our heart, make our heart stronger and more resilient. And that way we're able to help ourselves and others better in the long run. So there are certain ways that we can connect with our emotions. Now, this isn't all the ways, because like I talked about before, there are so many different emotions that different things are going to trigger or going to cause an emotional reaction. So ways in which that we connect with our emotions on a deliberate basis, as in we're going to be working with our emotions to see where they may have derived from, or work with our emotions to help cut the cords, cut the ties that we have to them, and then allow them to go back into the light. So here are a few ways. Meditation. A lot of times during meditation, we'll have what's called monkey mind. So we'll have our to-do list going through our mind. We'll have other things going through our mind. But before you go into meditative state, if you set the intention that you want to work on a particular emotional situation or a particular emotional state that you're trying to get a grasp on where it started from, set that intention before you go into meditation. And then a lot of times, even though we may have different kinds of things coming through our mind, you may find that certain words or phrases or pictures, images, sounds that we hear may help you in resolving those situations that cause an emotional reaction. So this is one way that we can connect with an emotional state and work through them. Self-hypnosis. Self-hypnosis, you can even call it guided meditation if you have heard of that before. But self-hypnosis, we go through it several times a day. All it is a relaxed state of being. So if you are sitting on the couch and you're reading a book and you've been reading and you're like, I don't even remember where I was. I don't remember the paragraph I just read. Or if you're watching TV and your mind goes into that daydream zone, that is actually self-hypnosis. It's not bad. It doesn't make you quack like a duck or do any of those things. All self-hypnosis does is it puts you in a relaxed state of being. During that time, your mind is working at a different capacity. Your right brain and left brain are working easier and more effortless together because there's nothing that's vying for its attention. You're relaxed. That's why when you sleep, you actually can go into an astral projection mode during your dreams because you aren't having anything that is keeping your mind active. You're able to be released and to let go and to allow. Same thing during self-hypnosis. This is a great time to set the intention before you put yourself into that very relaxed state. Set the intention that you want to work with your emotional state. You want to work with this emotional situation that you've been working on, and allow your mind during that self-hypnosis session to just go where it needs to go. It may go to past lives. It may go to future lives. It may go to another dimension altogether. It may go to a time in your life when you were so young you don't remember much, but it brings it up for healing and self-reflection. Energy work. Energy work is a wonderful tool in order to be able to process that emotion, those emotions that are maybe stuck or blocked or keeping you from living the life that you want to live. Energy work, especially when we're working with our chakra system or our aura, can actually help find and hone in on certain emotional states or certain ties or cords that we have that aren't of our highest and best good anymore. Once we release those, we're able to bring our energy back. You're going to feel so much lighter and airier and able to just have more energy. And this energy work is emotional because you're working with your emotions, but processing them through the emotional states that they are from or in will actually help benefit your energetic body. And just being able to tap into those areas will actually help you in the long run to feel like the next time these emotional states come up, those areas are going to be helpful in helping you process them, not on a heightened level, but on an even keel. And then you'll be able to work through them much, much easier. Journaling. Journaling is a great way to get those things out of your head, whether we're putting just anger down on the paper, whether that is in words or doodles, scribbles, or we're putting sadness and our heartbreak into these pages. Journaling is a great way to help you to flow down that river, to just let it out and allow it to be. A lot of times what happens is it brings you to a tipping point, a point in which you see where this all started from, and you can cut that tie, you can release it and let it go back to the light, let it transmute so that it no longer is putting any pressure upon you. And then once you do, you can just move through it. The interesting thing about journaling, which when I first started doing it, and I would get angry and I'd write out these pages and I'd be angry. By the time I got done and I got angry, I went through all the emotions. I would write out starting with anger, and then I would almost hate myself for doing it. And then I would get sad, and then I would feel like I came to that tipping point and I could see clearly where it started from. And then at the end, I could forgive and let go. With that, I could rip out those pages, and in a ceremony of release, I could watch it be transmuted in the fire, watch it be let go, let it wash away. And it was so cleansing and releasing that I could actually feel those ties separated from me so that my power could come back, and that the next time that angry time would come up, I wasn't so angry. I was able to look at it objectively and be able to see exactly what was for my highest good, others' highest good, and just be able to move through it rather than internalize it and let it just get into that murky, wallowy place. So it really helped to be able to just release those pages and let them go. Here again, appreciate and release where you are right now. Appreciate those emotions. That means you're a human being. That means you're here experiencing life. Life isn't all roses and rainbows and unicorns. A lot of times, life is those drudgery times, those sad times, those angry times, those learning times, those expansion times, those hard times. But if we didn't go through them, we wouldn't be the person that we are now. We wouldn't be able to help others when they came to that tipping point or that crossroads. We wouldn't be able to realize and learn, hey, triggers me, so what can I do to help myself overcome that? So here again, be grateful. Appreciate where you're at. Appreciate those circumstances for what they were, learning experiences. Now we can move forward. We can thank those experiences. We can thank those ties that came to us. We had them for a reason, whether asked or not, but we can thank them. And then we can release them back to the light. We can let them go. Cut those cords, cut those ties, remove those daggers that have been thrown at you. Remove those times when people have placed undue things upon you, undue exceptions on you, undue processes on you. Let those go. Let them be. Let them go back to the light so that it can be transmuted, so that you can finally receive your power back and be full once again. All right. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today. I am sending you so much love, light, and eternal blessings. You take care, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.